As dusk was falling, the men gathered around the fires to warm their bones. They had not posted many sentries around their small camp, believing that it was safe, and the enemy had been beaten. Now they were cowering inside their walled capital. But as the warmth of the fire was slowly lulling them to sleep, fearsome cries filled the air in a foreign tongue they did not know. From nearby rocks, sparks began to fly, as if the enemy's swords were alive. The soldiers hastily drew their blades and prepared for the charge. Even during its Republican days, Rome did not rely solely on its own military strength. Instead, it used a wide variety of auxiliary and mercenary forces to complement its regular troops. This philosophy did not change when it became an empire, nor when its western half collapsed. Throughout the 1,000 years of the Eastern Roman or Byzantine Empire, the medieval Greek-speaking Roman state employed dozens of different nations to protect its borders, including Huns, Bulgars, Alans, Cumans, Franks, Germans, Seljuks, Ottomans, and Mongols. In this video, we're going to look at some of the most fearsome foreigners who fought under the empire's banners. This video is made possible thanks to the generous support of our YouTube members and patrons. Their contributions are the backbone of our work. As a token of our appreciation, our patrons and YouTube members enjoy 2 exclusive videos every week. Currently, they have access to a complete series on Xenophon's Anabasis, the First Punic War, History of Prussia, Italian Unification Wars, Risorgimento, and numerous other fun videos. Additionally, our Pacific War series is ongoing, and we're excited to announce the release of a new series on the Russo-Japanese War and Albigensian Crusades, and much more, exclusively for our backers. If you want to join this fantastic community, you can find the links in the video description and pinned comment. By becoming a patron or YouTube member, you'll gain access to exclusive videos, early access to all our public content, release schedules, wallpapers, and an invitation to our active Discord server, where we engage in lively discussions. Your support is invaluable, and we sincerely thank you for making our work possible. Ever since their conversion to Christianity, both Georgia and Armenia developed and retained close ties to Constantinople, even when these lands were occupied by the Persian Sassanids or later by Muslim caliphates. The Armenians had particularly good relations with the Byzantines because their lower aristocracy, the Nakarans, were able to establish a great military reputation that lasted until the 8th century. These lower nobles were willing to rent their military services to the highest bidder, whether he was offering gold or richer lands. Naturally, the Byzantine Empire, and especially Emperor Maurice, took advantage of this deal, encouraging many Nakarans to resettle in Pergamum during the 7th century. These men formed an elite 2,000-strong unit of horsemen that mainly fought against the Avars on the Danube front. Armenian troops played a prominent role in the ultimately unsuccessful defense of Byzantine Syria against the Islamic Caliphate. After the Muslim conquests of the area, the political scenery changed, with many Armenians fighting under the Caliphate's banner against the Byzantines. Still, even after this, some Orthodox Armenians served in the Byzantine army, and even managed to rise in the ranks. Both Georgia and Armenia continued to supply mercenaries and auxiliaries to Byzantium well into the 14th century, but by that time the majority of foreign forces were either Turks or Latins. In September of 1303, 2 envoys arrived at the court of the Byzantine Emperor Andronicus II Palaeologos. They had been sent by Roger de Flor, commander of the newly founded but soon to be famous Great Catalan Company. As a name, the mercenary company was just a newborn, but its men and commander were seasoned veterans of the decades-long War of the Sicilian Vespers between the Angevin Kingdom of Naples and the Kingdom of Aragon for control of Sicily. The Catalan mercenaries, also known as the Almogavars, were fierce and sought-after warriors. War was truly part of their DNA, for they and their ancestors had for centuries fought against the Arabs, who had conquered much of the Iberian Peninsula. They fought as poorly dressed light infantry, often adorned in nothing more than a sheepskin coat called zamara, leather sandals, breeches, and gaiters made of hides. Their helmets were also either made of steel or leather. Their weapons consisted of javelins and the distinctive hunting short spear, the iskona, which in dire moments could also be thrown at the enemy. Some of them also carried falchions and knives. By far the most unique piece of their equipment was a piece of flint they carried with them, and which they struck with their blades shortly before battle to create sparks that would terrorize their foes, while crying, "Awake, iron, let's kill!" If an Almogavar had distinguished himself in the virtues of warfare, had the support of his fellow soldiers, and had the approval of the captains, he would be promoted to the rank of Almocaden, a rank roughly equivalent to that of a modern-day sergeant. If he also possessed a military mind, versed in tactics, wisdom and intelligence, and the more strategic aspect of war, he could be promoted to the highest rank, that of Adelid, the equivalent of modern-day captain. To do so, 12 Adelids were needed to approve of his promotion. They would then lift him on a shield, and facing all cardinal directions, he would make the sign of the cross with his sword, challenging every enemy to fight him as he swore fealty to his king. In 1303, Roger de Flor's ambassadors promised the services of these ferocious warriors to the Byzantine Emperor for 9 months. In exchange, Roger's men would be paid double the usual rate, while he would receive the emperor's 15-year-old niece's hand in marriage, Maria Asenina, who was also the daughter of the Tsar of Bulgaria, Ivan Asen III. Furthermore, the Italian condottiero would be appointed to the office of Megas Dux. This was a highly prestigious title, and as commander-in-chief of the imperial navy, only a handful of people in the Byzantine Empire would outrank him. De Flor was certainly demanding a hefty price for the services of his mercenary company, and he would have surely been refused if Andronicus hadn't been in such a precarious political situation, caused by the rapid expansion of the Ottoman Turks in Asia Minor. Before the end of the year, Roger arrived at Constantinople, bringing with him 8,000 men, of which 4,000 were Almogavar foot soldiers and 1,500 were cavalry, while the rest were an unspecified number of servants and auxiliary forces. The company also had its own fleet that they used for transportation, consisting of 36 ships, half of them being galleys. The arrival of the mercenary company in Constantinople, however, brought unexpected trouble, as the Genoese inhabitants of Pera did not see eye to eye with the Catalans and felt that their presence in the city meant that the House of Barcelona was trying to undermine the interests of the Genoese Republic. It wasn't long before armed conflict between these two factions broke out, which resulted in the deaths of around 3,000 Genoese, and only stopped after Andronicus personally intervened. Realizing the stay of the Catalans in the capital would only cause further bloodshed within the city, the Byzantine Emperor ordered them to cross the Bosphorus and assume military action against the Turkish Beyliks in Anatolia to reclaim the lost lands. Landing at Cyzicus, which was under siege by a Karasid Turkish army, the mercenaries would soon prove their worth, as they crushed the unsuspecting Turks. After wintering in the area and looting everything precious they came across, to the dismay of the locals, the Catalans moved to the south to relieve the besieged city of Philadelphia. In what would be known as the Battle of Aulex, Roger and his men once more delivered a devastating blow to the Turkish forces, who abandoned the siege, leaving behind 18,000 dead. With Philadelphia secured, De Flor moved to Magnesia, where he established his headquarters and resumed his campaign against the Turkish Beyliks, achieving great victories at Tyre, Ania, and Kibistra at the Cilician Gates, where the Catalans triumphed over an Ottoman army 3 times their number. The Almogavars would have pushed even further east, but their commanders did not want to take the risk, and thus the company retreated to Magnesia. There they found out that the Byzantines had killed the Catalan garrison and stolen the treasury. Apoplectic, De Flor immediately laid siege to the city. This hostile attitude on the part of the Byzantines did not come out of the blue. Over the past 2 years, De Flor was acting as if he was the governor of Anatolia, winning the enmity of appointed Byzantine officials, while his men had at times looted the very same people they were fighting for. The siege was however lifted when Andronicus asked De Flor to move into Thrace, which was being threatened by the Bulgarian usurper Theodore Svetoslav. Considering the events that followed this, it was very likely a ruse. Reaching Adrianople, De Flor attended a lavish banquet that was thrown in his honour when a band of Alan mercenaries, paid by Andronicus' son and co-emperor Michael IX, broke into the chambers and slaughtered Roger and his men. It was a poorly calculated decision because the news of their commander's death sent the Catalans into a devastating rampage across Thrace and Macedonia. Not even the monasteries of Mount Athos escaped their wrath, which prompted the monastic state to issue a ban on the entry of Catalan men that lasted until the year 2000. Eventually they moved south towards Thessaly and the Duchy of Athens, then under the control of the Burgundian Gautier de Brienne. The Catalans would soon conquer the duchy for themselves, and soon extended their control over Thebes and Thessaly, and they would rule these territories in the name of the Crown of Aragon until 1390, when they were defeated by the Navarrese Company of Pedro de San Cipriano and the Italians of Nerio I Acciaioli. Byzantium's Slavic neighbours could not be absent from this video. The Bulgars had fought in the service of the empire ever since they settled as foederati in Thrace and eastern Macedonia, and campaigned against the Ostrogoths under the command of Belisarius alongside other foederati forces made up of Lombards and Gepids. Throughout the following centuries, Bulgarians would continue to be enlisted either as mercenaries under the thematic system or even forced to serve as prisoners of war. During the last centuries of the empire, they were hired as small bands of brigands that fought mainly as cavalry archers, but there were a few instances of Bulgarian Tsars sending large allied contingents to fight in service of the empire. Their involvement during this time period in Byzantine affairs mirrors that of the Serbs in that these auxiliary forces were mostly involved in civil wars. The Serbs, originally vassals of the empire during the 12th century, were required to supply a certain number of troops when Byzantium was at war, 500 men for Asiatic campaigns and 2,000 for European ones. Just like Bulgaria, of course, there were times when the Serbian states were openly hostile to Byzantium and refused to provide any aid. They too would provide occasional assistance during the empire's later centuries, such as during the Battle of Pelagonia, though these auxiliary forces were not always composed of ethnic Serbs. Stefan Uroš II loaned 2,000 Cuman cavalrymen to Michael IX in 1312. The last recorded instance of Serbs fighting alongside the Byzantines was in 1352, when 4,000 Serbian horsemen were provided to John V Palaeologos. We are well familiar with the various Turkish tribes of Anatolia and their hostile relationship with Byzantium, but Turks also served as soldiers of the empire in quite large numbers, and from the 14th century onwards they were actually the largest foreign element of the Byzantine army. Turkic peoples who fought for the Eastern Romans included the Pechenegs, Cumans, Uzis, and even Seljuks. During the Middle Period, the Pechenegs, who sources sometimes refer to as Scyths, constituted the majority of Asiatic mercenaries employed by Byzantium, and together with the Cumans, might have been what came to be known as the Vardariatai. According to Pseudo-Codinos, the name comes from the Vardar Valley in Macedonia, where they settled upon the orders of an old emperor. The Vardariatai were a civic police unit which served as part of the palace guard, equipped with whips, staffs and batons, and tasked with policing duties, especially that of keeping order during ceremonies. Besides serving as Vardariatai, both Pechenegs and Cumans provided mercenaries that fought on the field of battle, typically as horse archers, drawing from their long-standing nomadic tradition. Due to this, the Byzantines came to refer to them as the Scythicon, after the long-faded Scythian peoples who had inhabited the steppe in antiquity. First employed at the end of the 11th century, the Cumans and Pechenegs quickly became an important part of the Byzantine army for the next 200 years, and in 1241, Emperor John III even settled a large number of them in Thrace and Anatolia, from where he and his successors would frequently muster troops, at least until the end of the century. We have already mentioned the names of other Turkic people that were recruited into the Byzantine army, such as the Seljuks, who were either employed directly under the emperor's pay or were loaned out by friendly Turkish rulers in Asia Minor. A rather famous example of the latter case is that of the Turkoman Bey Umur of Aydin, who provided troops to his Byzantine allies in various cases, such as during Andronicus's Albanian campaign in 1338, when Umur offered 2,000 foot archers. Umur would again provide men, this time to Andronicus's successor, John VI Kantakouzenos, with whom he had an especially warm and friendly relationship during the Byzantine Civil War of 1341 to 1347. Reportedly, Umur Pasha campaigned in Thrace with an enormous contingent of 30,000 men, first saving his friend in Didymatycho in early 1343, and then unsuccessfully trying to besiege Thessaloniki during the fall of the same year. Kantakouzenos also reports that 2 years later, Umur campaigned with him in Thrace, this time accompanied by 20,000 horsemen. However, the opposite side was also keen to employ Turks, with Empress Anna of Savoy receiving 6,000 soldiers from the Emir of Saruhan, though they quickly abandoned her and joined Kantakouzenos. What might surprise our audience the most is that even Ottoman Turks, who eventually would be the empire's end, also served and assisted the Byzantine army. Again, Kantakouzenos made extensive use of large Ottoman cavalry contingents that numbered 6,000 men in 1345, 10,000 in 1348, and 20,000 in 1349. Though we should note that in the last case, the Ottoman troops did not play an active role in the hostilities. While Kantakouzenos and his successors sought their assistance whenever possible, valuing their prowess in battle, he criticized them for their lack of discipline, which was only exaggerated when concentrated in such large numbers. Turkish troops would continue to be employed throughout the 14th and 15th century, and even during the empire's twilight in 1453, 600 Ottomans, loyal to Orhan Çelebi, fought during the siege of Constantinople, defending part of the sea walls and the harbour of Epitaskallio. Finally, noteworthy is the service of the Tokopuli, literally the sons of Turks, who were Christianized Turks, often of Byzantine Turkish origin, who fought as horse archers and light cavalry. Throughout its millennia-spanning history, the Byzantine Empire's fate was intertwined with a multitude of adversaries, and equally so with allies, friends, and intrepid adventurers who fought on its side, whether they were motivated by loyalty to their faith, their sovereign, or the allure of riches. These warriors stand as a testament to the multifaceted nature of the Byzantine Empire and its enduring influence on the annals of time. Yet still, we have only covered a few of the peoples who fought for the empire, and there are many more to be explored, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you are subscribed and press the bell button. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Recently, we've started releasing weekly Patreon and YouTube member exclusive content. Consider joining their ranks via the link in the description or button under the video to watch these weekly videos, learn about our schedule, get early access to our videos, access our private Discord, and much more. This is the Kings and Generals channel, and we will catch you on the next one.